Hello everyone, my name is Elsum's World and welcome to a very overdue video. It's been a minute, I'm not gonna lie. I did not expect to be back after my last video, but here I am. I want to thank all 474 of you who subscribed and everyone who kept subscribing for having faith in me returning to YouTube, because I surely didn't have faith that I would be here. Anyway, today we're gonna hang out in CAS for a bit. I figured I'd ease you into the lore of my current household. But yeah, this story follows two ranch brothers who live in Chestnut Ridge. When their father died, he left one of them an inheritance, and the other brother is kinda salty about it. And it's just a whole lot of family tension and drama. This story has been simmering within me for a while. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to start their story, so grab a snack or even play me in the background as you finish some work, and let's get started. So right now I'm creating Michael, and Michael is the younger brother. He's around 39, I would say, and he's always had this youthful glow to him, not just physically but socially too. That's why people are kind of drawn into him. He's been working his father's ranch since he was like 10, which I know is kind of crazy to think about, but Michael always liked working on the ranch, whether it was feeding the horses or getting bales of hay. It was something that came naturally to him. He's always been quite headstrong, even when he was just a young boy. I feel like he was the type of child who saw his uncles breaking in a horse, and he was like, I can do that, even though he clearly couldn't. I feel like maybe at 16 or something, he was probably breaking in horses himself, maybe against his father's will. And his father would always pretend to be upset, but would secretly be impressed. And I'd like to think he got that stubbornness and that headstrong personality from his mom, but neither he nor his brother knew their mom. She left when they were young and ran off with some guy from the carnival. And I know that sounds absurd, but it's not just about the carnival, it's about her wanting to escape. The small town in Chestnut Ridge had become suffocating to her, so when the carnival left town, so did she. But that was still no excuse for her to abandon her family, and for the boys, that left them with a very, very deep mother wound that they still deal with in different ways. For Michael, her leaving made him really loyal to those around him, but under all of that loyalty, he has a hidden rage. Like literally, I gave him the hothead trait. He's angry at her for leaving them, angry at himself for thinking he wasn't enough for her to stay, yet a small part of him still defends her. You know, sometimes to deal with these feelings, he drinks a little too much, and he gets that glassy look in his eyes when he's thinking and overthinking. So when the brothers were in their 30s, their father died, and they read his will, and Michael was the one to get the inheritance. And the inheritance was the bar his father owned. And it was a surprise because Michael is the younger one. And if you know anything about inheritances and everything, normally or traditionally, it's supposed to go to the older sibling, which in this case it didn't. And that's where the tension really started to brew between Michael and his brother. You see, Michael didn't ask for the bar, but he got it. You know, his father trusted him with it, and people, including his brother, questioned whether Michael was even really ready for the responsibility of running a bar. And Michael was determined to prove them wrong. And I honestly can't wait to dive more into his story and how everything is just going to come together with his relationships and him finding out more about himself and trying to heal within himself. So yeah, before I start on the other brother's story, I want to mention Michael's wife, Corinne. She's equally as important in this story. So Michael met Corinne when they were teens. This is a classic young love story. One day he saw her riding a horse, better than most guys at the time, and her hair was flowing in the wind, and he was like, "Who's that?" And his friends were like, "Oh, that's Corinne." And ever since Michael saw her, he was kinda in love. Corinne had always been sharp, quick-witted, super outgoing. Like Michael, I also gave her the loyal trait because she really is fiercely loyal to those around her and those particularly who she cares about. Michael fell in love with her joy and how carefree she was, and Corinne fell for Michael's spark, that boldness he has, that defiance in his eyes, and she liked that. They eventually got married when they were young. I picture they were both 19, still babies, and everyone didn't think it would last. Honestly, those two were a force on their own. So it was like, imagine them together. And persons were like, surely, as time goes on, they're gonna split up. But they didn't. In fact, it's been about 20 years and they're still going pretty strong. So Corinne, in my eyes, has always been observant. She noticed how after her father-in-law died, how Michael and his brother started avoiding each other. And at first, she didn't want to get in between them, but she couldn't for too long. The brothers' tension, it started to spill into her marriage. It was like an emotional whiplash. One moment he's all sappy, and the other times he snaps at her. And I wanted to give them a wholesome relationship dynamic. I really wanted to. But I had to be honest and stick to my gut and the lore between them. So they have an unpredictable romance dynamic, which kind of hurt my heart. And I'm hoping though, as I play through their story, they go back to wholesome, but I'm not gonna force it. I'm just gonna see where the story goes. I feel like Corinne knows how to ground Michael, especially when he starts to spiral. Now, I didn't want her to be a rehabilitation center for Michael or make her someone who tries to fix him. She knows how to calm him and also when to call him out, whether he likes it or not. She's his calm, but she's also his chaos. She also helps Michael when he feels guilty for owning the bar, when he feels like he's not smart enough or educated enough like his brother. Corinne is always there to remind him that obviously his father trusted him enough to own the bar, to keep their family legacy going. Now, the conflict between Corinne and Michael mainly is split between her loyalty versus her being exhausted. She doesn't mind being his safe place, but she can't also be like the one who gets all of the backlash and all of the emotional turmoil from him not dealing with the issues with his brother. Another point of conflict is that she misses what her and Michael were. That when they were younger, it was easier. The world felt more carefree. When making her, I also saw someone who had aged beautifully but still had that same youthful glow that Michael has. And that's where I think they mesh. They have their own chaotic yet beautiful relationship, and they made it their own. Their life isn't easy. Marriage is hard. Relationships get tense sometimes, but they're real and messy and beautiful, and they've been going 20 years strong. So yeah, I really can't wait to dive deeper into their relationship and see if anything changes. Okay, so let's finally talk about James. James is the older brother. As you would expect, he grew up a little too fast, especially after their mom left. James was only 10. He was old enough to remember the sound of the door closing, old enough to remember how he tucked Michael in that night and didn't cry until later. He didn't understand all that was going on, but he understood enough that something was shifting. And his dad wasn't really explaining everything to him either. He dealt with his mother wound a little differently. He never talks about their mother, not even to his wife. He's more emotionally rigid, I would say, and he keeps people at an arm's length. Now, unlike Michael, James didn't have this inherent love for the ranch. He was kind of pushed into helping his father, which is why he resents the ranch now. He didn't know it at the time, but when his mom left, their dad had a hard time coping with it. I feel like he didn't have the language to explain what was going on, but he knew his dad wasn't the same. So James had to kind of pick up the slack on the ranch until his dad was able to recover. When he was old enough, James also worked in the bar. His father trusted him to do so, while Michael worked on the ranch. Now, while he was working, James always dreamed of leaving the ranch. He dreamed of going to college and basically becoming more than what his father was. And that's what he did. He left home, he went to college, and his dad didn't have a problem with that, and he tried to help James wherever he could. Now, after he left college, James surprisingly came back to Chestnut Ridge, and he worked in his father's bar, mainly behind the scenes. So he started handling the finances. He made sure the bar was well stocked. He kind of made sure everything was good and running smoothly. That's why when their father died, James felt like he was owed the inheritance. He had always made sure the bar, like I said, was good. He'd taken on so much responsibilities. He had dealt with the brunt of being the firstborn. He felt like he deserved something for all of those years and for all of his hard work. Yet still, the inheritance, the bar, it went to Michael. And for James, it felt like a slap in the face. On paper, like, you can see James was better suited to handle the job. Literally, he has the experience, he has a degree in economics, so it really didn't make sense. And that's kind of where the tension with his brother really started. A part of James felt betrayed, not only by his father, but by Michael too. A part of him felt like Michael shouldn't have taken the bar, that he should have refused it if he really cared. And when Michael didn't do that, it broke something in James. Now, to cope with not having the bar, James tried to create a business of his own. So he makes nectar, and he's looking to open a nectary. Is that a word? Like a winery? he's hoping to open a nectary soon. We're gonna see if he invites Michael and Corinne to the grand opening. But yeah. The worst thing is that James doesn't hate Michael for having the inheritance. He really doesn't. Though their relationship is strained, it's just hard for James to let that expectation go. It's been over a decade. I think James is like 41 now, and a part of him doesn't even want Michael to apologize. He just wants things to go back to normal. But it's unlikely that, things will, moving forward, they can only change for the better, and both of them have to want that. Right now, though, both of them are pretty stubborn, Michael more than James, and they still argue a lot. Michael calls him preppy boy because James went off to college and he's a little snobby. They mainly argue about petty stuff, but we know that the real issue is deeper. And I really want to uncover more in his story, and hopefully we can see if there's a path to healing. Last but not least, we have Marla. Marla is James' wife. He met her a little later than Michael and Corinne. He met her when he went away to college. When making Marla, I imagined her as someone who was a little different than James, or actually quite different than James. Marla was always kind. She's a little more soft-spoken, but not weak. A little awkward, yet quietly confident. The kind of person who thinks before she speaks, you know. But when she does speak, you know it's gonna count for something. She always knew how to move through the world and take up space. And I think that's what James fell for when it came to her. That, and she has a really big heart. Marla met the version of James that was still guarded, still a little serious, but a part of his heavy heart softened for her. Like I said earlier, he was used to holding people at arm's length, you know, not trusting too fast, not feeling. But without even knowing, she helped him to use his heart again. She never asked him to be light, but she did ask him to be real. I wanted her to be his anchor without losing who she was. Marla never tried to fix James. She just stayed long enough for him to feel safe and grounded. After college, she moved back with James to Chestnut Ridge. She had practically been a bit of a city girl her entire life, and she didn't mind the move, honestly. She met James's father, she met Michael, Corinne, her and James got married, and the town seemed nice enough. Now, when it came to the inheritance, she saw firsthand how it affected James. At first, she gave him the space he needed. James was grieving not just his father, but also the loss of an inheritance he felt like he deserved. But now, with it being years later, she's tired. Like Corinne, this whole brotherly feud between Michael and James is bleeding into their marriage. Marla is tired of the brothers fighting. It's been 10 years. 10 years, guys. She's tired of the emotional turmoil. She's tired of waiting for this version of her marriage that is kind of hidden by Michael. She doesn't push James, but she's still trying to nudge him to forgive. Marla still talks to Corinne. They're actually really good friends, even though James still doesn't like Corinne entirely. That's just something he has to put up with. Both Marla and Corinne see how this turmoil is affecting their marriages. You know, they've watched years slip by, waiting for some type of forgiveness to happen. They love their husbands, they really do. But loving a man with unhealed wounds is like, I don't know, I wish I had a good metaphor or something, but either way, it's not what both of them signed up for. Moving forward, I think I want to explore that sisterhood. I think what I really liked about forming their relationship is that they didn't let their husband's feud get in the way of their friendship. There's such a beauty in the midst of this chaotic little family. I remember thinking of this story idea one day and just trying to figure out how I'd flesh it out. And even now, I still think there's still so much more to discover through gameplay and seeing how their dynamics play out. Like I said earlier, this was just me introducing you guys to them. I hope to get into their stories some more through gameplay. I'm probably going to do some playing off screen, but you guys can let me know if you want to see more of their story. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.